let me show you guys something real quick. All right, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have my headphones on that one. So once again, take a look at this right here, this particular area. Take a look at this right here, Midtown Sacramento. Look at this right here. Take a look at that. And we're going to get right into it right after. So, once again, you never know exactly where I'm going to take you when I go and shoot these live streams and how I'm going to go about it. And you know what? I got to be honest with you. I don't have the slightest plan or anything like that other than just put on the live cam and talk about the subject that I have on the description, which is what? Here it is. A lot of people are wondering exactly what is the relationship between the UFC and Saudi Arabia, right? How does one party benefit the other? Well, for one, I got to be honest with you. There's an economic prosperity to be gained in this particular situation. And how so? Well, here's one way you got to understand. You're probably wondering, what is it that an oil-rich country really needs in order for them to be even more richer than what they already are? Well, I'm going to tell you this. It goes something like this, right? Certain resources, or most resources, for the most part, don't last a very long time. So you can say oil-rich this or this and that. The reality is you got to find different innovative ways for a long-term goal in order to build your portfolio. And in comes F1 Formula Racing, in comes Hollywood. Okay, this is literally what they're trying to present to you in that sense, right? Is straight up Hollywood. Okay, in terms of the movie scenes, in terms of the cinematic effect that they want to capture your imagination with, which is what you see in a lot of the boxing promotions that they've been doing. So as a result of that, here's something that you got to understand, okay? What the Saudis are trying to do is build a relationship with a company that is already a proven brand. And that's exactly what the UFC is, and that's exactly what they're going to use them for. So in other words, they already have boxing, literally, by the throat, and they can control boxing in any way that they wish. Because right now they're planning on buying Matchroom, Frank Warren Promotions, maybe even PBC, and maybe even Boxer, the 2X Boxer promotion. And what are they going to do with that? Well, they're going to build fights and put everybody against everybody in the matchups that we all want to see. And there's going to be no reservations of anyone ducking, presumably, if money is the only thing that really stops anybody from taking fights. So now, the UFC is a proven brand. Why do I say that? Because they have mixed martial arts by the throat. So in other words, in order for them to be in that sector, I'm going to be honest with you, even if they put up all of their money to build their own league, it would not withstand against the machine that the UFC has. First of all, think about this, right? You look at what happened in UFC 303 that's happening next weekend. What do you notice about it? They were able to change the card straight away. How are they able to do that? Because they have a machine that's already running, a proven product, a product that has replacements, that builds off of being bigger than the actual athlete itself. Okay, and obviously the NFL, the NHL, and all of these different leagues, they have that same type of motion going into their company, that they are bigger than the actual athlete, because most athletes at some point they're going to fail in their bodies, in their performance, in the statistics that they once were able to put up but no longer could do. So it's a converter belt, as they say, right? Just constant moving around, going up and down, and this and that. That's literally what the UFC is. And guess what? You want to know what's also like that? I'm going to show you exactly what else is like that right here. So right here is, by the way, this is not in LA we're at right now. We're in Sacramento. I'm back in Sacramento, by the way. So look, this is what it's all about right here, right? So you know what this means? I'm going to tell you is that it's a system where they have people that are hot one day and then the next day they're not, and they switch them up and find somebody else new to replace whatever they were missing before, or something similar to it, right? So once again, the same analogy that I say, that some products or some entities are always going to be bigger than the actual artist or the actual athlete or the actual individual, which again sort of falls into the same category of, well, do you want individualism, or do you want to have everything laid out for you in, what do you call it, a cookie cutter type of scenario, right? So that's really what it is, right? It's just, a classic battle of individualism, versus, doing your own thing, or just doing what everybody else in the crowd wants to do. Look, let me show you this again. Look at this. Some real dark stuff right here. So in turn, what is it that they are looking for out of that whole entire transaction? So I'll tell you exactly. Oh, by the way, we're going to take one more shot of that. And for those of you that missed out on the beginning of the stream, don't forget to rewind back so that you could see all the bright lights and the beautiful graffiti that they got going on here in Sacramento, in Midtown Sacramento to be exact. So here it goes, right? I've explained to you the relationship, or the dynamics at least, of the relationship between the Saudis and the UFC and how exactly that's going to go. I also explained how it was going to benefit them. Did I do that? Well, I'm going to do that right now. If I hadn't, or if I repeat myself, please forgive me. But I want to give the most accurate information and not miss out any pieces. So here it goes. What the UFC, or what Saudi Arabia is trying to do with the UFC in particular, is they want to build credibility in the world stage as an entertainment tourist attraction. And maybe I didn't explain that earlier in the stream, but if I did, that's probably the best articulated answer to give you on that particular matter. So why is it a strategic move for the Saudis to do that? You got to understand that for a long time, Saudi Arabia was seen as somewhat of an intolerant state across the world. Why? Because of the Islamic reservations that you have to have in order to fulfill a certain type of Islamic way of thinking within a society. And what exactly do I mean by that? For example, for a long time, Saudi Arabia didn't allow you to drink, right? And same thing in other Arab Gulf states. Now, all of a sudden, why did they decide to change up and go into a different direction. And again, a lot of that is a business decision. Now, of course, there's other Arab Gulf countries that are not doing such things. Like, for example, Qatar. I don't think you could find or get a drink in Qatar. I would be very surprised if you can. You can't even walk around with a pride flag in Qatar. Make of that as you will. Obviously, some are going to like that, some are not, but that's just a reality of these societies. Now, same thing with Saudi Arabia. I noticed a video with Ronaldo and his experience in Saudi Arabia. I urge you guys to take a look at it. I don't want to further go into details about it, but just take a look at the lifestyle of Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia and let me know what you guys think on the comment section below, and be very respectful as we continue on. So here it goes, right? Oil may not last forever. Let's try to really put that in perspective, right? And I believe that everybody around the world knows that, including the government that we are currently talking about. So because they know that, they want to build sports industries. Now, can they build their own MMA organization outside of the UFC? The answer is no. Why would you? These are not the type of people that wants to create anything new, but rather buy a piece of an art that is already there. And what exactly do I mean by that? So let's talk tax bracket, social classes, and whatnot. Right? Why? I'm going to tell you, because when it comes to social class, different people with different types of money are going to have different tastes. The Saudis are not the type of people that are creative. Okay? They're not, well, let me explain that in a better term. They're not the type of people that wants to create anything new when it comes to combat sports. They want to buy what is already there. And what's already there is, guess what? Tyson Fury with Queensberry, Anthony Joshua with Matchroom, and all of Floyd's guys in PBC. And check this out right here. How about this? Mr. T in Sacramento. Look at this. Look at the gems that I find when I go and drive around just to talk about MMA, right? Look at this. Look at this. How amazing is that? And this is a real chain too. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. It's a real chain for Mr. T. Look at that. Look at that. I pity the fool. So in the metaphor that I said about certain rich people, they want to buy art, right? They don't want to create it. You ever been to art galleries where they had a bunch of these super rich, highly elite people walking around, just looking at art, buying some of the most meaningless, abstract art, sort of like that one? Now, obviously that's abstract, but you don't know what that symbolizes or what exactly that may mean. And once again, there's another shot of Mr. T right there, once again. So, here's one thing you got to understand, right? Again, I said that they don't want to create anything new when it comes to mixed martial arts. They already know what is a proven product. They trust it. Now, let's talk about why UFC is a proven product. UFC doesn't require a lot of lights, glamour, and action or anything like that. And when they start fighting in the spear, maybe it may be a different story. But for now, the UFC is pretty much plain Jane in the way that they promote their fights. You could barely see the fight entrances, and that's for good reason, because obviously they don't want to get any copy strike of strikes against them playing a song that a fighter is playing that they have no business playing due to copyright reasons, right? And you've seen that a lot. When you buy a replay of a UFC fight, you will never hear the original song that had came out. So in other words, you've seen Conor McGregor walk out to Notorious B.I.G. and the Foggy Dew Irish song, but when you watch the replay of these fights in a video that you buy in a DVD or maybe buy it digitally in some kind of capacity, guess what you get? A whole different type of music that has nothing to do with the original song that was playing at the time, which was Notorious B.I.G. and Foggy Dew. Now, why is that? Well, for the simple fact that you just don't have the copyright means to do it. So, that's the unfortunate thing about the UFC and its style of promotion. They don't also try to create really anything new. For example, they don't create their own entrance music, right? You take a look at the WWE. They have guys that have their own entrance music. Now, are there some guys out there that create their own entrance music? Yes, like Roy Jones Jr. You remember Can't Be Touched, a lot of the Australian, Samoan, Polynesian fighters walk out to that song. To a Roy Jones song. Think about that. Robert Whittaker, Parker, and the list goes on. Maybe even Carlos Ulberg, I believe. So all these guys. But once again, understand that it's a proven product and the Saudis want to, I don't know what they want to do, whether they want to put some money in it. Here's the thing that I think is really interesting, right? Suppose one fighter doesn't want to fight another fighter. Okay, here's a clear, good example. And I don't know how much interest this fight can garner right now due to the fact that Francis Ngannou got slept. On top of that, he's going through a lot of family tragedies in the current moment of time. So bringing him back to a competition status would be almost inhumane at this point, right? But in the perfect world, in a perfect setting, Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones, how can it happen? Well, it can't. One guy's in the PFL. Jon Jones is in the UFC. What is the connecting factor? How about this? They're both in ESPN network, right? Okay, great. So let's move on. How do we continue to put this together? All right, how about this? Get the Saudis to buy both organizations for one day and set the fight up with Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones. Can it happen? Well, I tell you what, it can absolutely happen, because think about this. What else can the Saudis change in a UFC product that is already set in its ways, and with good reason? Because here's something you got to understand. Most people, they love routines. They don't like spontaneous actions or anything. For example, you guys, right now, rewind from the very beginning. Take a look at all the different graffiti arts that I just showed you right now. That little Mr. T mural that I just showed you right now. Who does that in an MMA channel? Most guys are not going to do that, because guess what? They're not that spontaneous. And that's also for the same reason why a lot of people don't have a YouTube channel, or at least try it out, because in their minds, they don't want to look dumb. They don't want to look stupid. And once again, a lot of that can be tossed up to lack of bravery and a little bit of a cowardness. Or maybe you're just that kind of person that's an introvert that loves to live a quiet, covert life. And if so, there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that when it comes to people that are special, or people that are willing to try to be great, they're going to do things that are going to be in a spontaneous manner. But guess what? The UFC understands this. So in order to capture your imagination and in order to capture your attention, what they have to do is a redundant style that you are familiar with, but also a product that you trust. Because guess what? Speaking of trusting a product, why did Dana White even buy the UFC in the first place? Or at least the Fertitta brothers, to be exact. Why? They knew that those letters were synonymous with anything goes level of violence. So what do I mean by that? I'm 39 years old. I grew up in an era where DX and the NWO were the hottest thing on TV. You guys remember that. If you grew up in that era, hit the like button and hit the comments below. Let me know if you remember the DX NWO era, and I'm going to let you know where I'm going with this right now. So first and foremost, when you grow up in that era, the UFC was not as prevalent as it is now. So what exactly does all that mean? Well, that means that by the reality of the UFC not being a real sport back then, people looked at it as human cockfighting, okay? And is it human cockfighting in the way that we understand it today in the modern sense? And the answer is absolutely not. It is not human cockfighting by any stretch of the imagination. It is a sport, but nonetheless, it was cleaned up and changed into something that is a whole lot more desirable for the eyes of, let's say, the average sports fans, which again goes back to the language of redundancy, consistency, and the plain Jane routine of what most people understand their lives to be. That is why the UFC never does anything extravagant. It doesn't do anything insane when it comes to, let's say, entrances, nor do they even do anything as simple as what boxers do, where they have a rapper just come out on a microphone and rap them out. And even Eminem had enough sense to know that it was going to be very difficult to have a great live performance that he can be proud of, so he just decided to walk out with Terrence Crawford while the actual song was playing. Salute to him for being smart of knowing and understanding that and recognizing that. But when it comes to the UFC, this is the reason why they operate in a way that they do. But when it comes to boxing, it's a little bit different. You see, extravagance is welcome. The movie theatrics of their promotion is welcome. And guess what? Also, don't be surprised if the UFC uses this style and method to promote their video countdown shows and embedded episodes in the future. Think about this. That is a reality that is possible in the near future with this relationship between the Saudis and the UFC. So what else? For those of you that have tapped in, don't forget to watch from the very beginning. I showed you guys some sites of Sacramento in terms of the different, look at this. So these people are just walking by like this and this and that. Yeah, you're on live stream for walking by like an idiot. But anyways, yeah, haha. A little spontaneous action right there, right? You know, just getting at people for jaywalking. But anyways, I'm not trying to be a Karen or anything like that, but I just thought it was a little funny occurrence, which again, this is why you should like and subscribe, because you never know what you're going to get out of this live stream that I do. You never know where I'm going to go. You never know what day it's going to be or what time and what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk some MMA with you, some boxing, and I'm going to do it to the most objective level while also talk about geopolitics and the politics of the streets and the politics of your country, domestic and international, and how it all relates to the world of combat sports. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's continue more. What else can we talk about with the Saudis in their relationship with the UFC? Well, once again, I told you guys that at one point, the Saudis were seen as a very intolerant country. Now that they are opening their doors in sports, they are giving a different image to the world that I think really warrants itself to an open world economy. And I hope you guys understand what I mean by that. Because there are countries in the Middle East that have sanctions on them. For example, Iran. Iraq is a great example of that. Even though Iraq has a country that is somewhat known to be a U.S. puppet, they don't get the proper support. And not only that, the sanctions against them prevent a lot of aid to come to them. Gaza is another example of that. So many other different countries in the Arab world that have sanctions on them that really affect their economic prosperity. North Korea is a great example of that. So for a long time, with the Saudis being perceived as this ultra-religious state somewhere down the line, they wanted to start making changes. Who were some of the people that were instrumental in those changes? And by the way, in the future, you're probably going to see Saudi Arabian students read about this man like he was George Washington, which is none other than Mohammed bin Salman, and also how they're going to look at Turkey al-Sheikh in that same similar fashion as maybe a Benjamin Franklin type of figure in the modern Saudi Arabian leadership that you have in the current moment of time. And what is it that they emphasize on? What is it that they try to strive for in the future, which is modernization? Now, I'm not here to tell you whether you should agree with it or not. That's not my job. I'm just giving you the news straight down the middle, calling it down the line, facts for facts, and giving you the metrics of the reality in the situation that we are presenting to you right now, which is that Saudi Arabia made an economic decision to build relationships with F1 Formula Racing, with golf, with what else? Watch from beginning to end. Take a look at all the different sceneries that I've showed you around Sacramento, and I will see you guys in the next content, in the videos and live streams to come, inshallah.